Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another installment of Brainy the RPG Cat. So, we've got a lot of show tonight, so I don't want to spend too much time on an introduction. First thing, we're going to be going through the One Piece card game. I just recently managed to get my hands on the first 4 starter decks, and we're just going to look through that, and then following that, we are going to do tabletop lore, and we're going to read more of the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Once again, tonight's stream is brought to you by GreatMedia.Games. We're partnered with Great Media Games in order to bring you inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit GreatMedia.Games and use the code 10Finity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. And also, the stream is also brought to you by our donation campaign supporting Extra Life and Children's Hospital Colorado. And so donation link is going to be in the chat. Please give what your finances will allow. We're going to be keeping our links open until December 31st. So here it is, the One Piece card game. And, what can I say is that, it's a particularly good-looking card game. A lot of the art is recolored art from the original manga, but there are a few original pieces, particularly on probably some of the main character cards, which we're going to be getting into, specifically what that means in a moment. You've been hearing a lot about it recently. Is it new? So, I would say it's about a year old. The majority of it came out in Japan. And so this, as of December 3rd of this year, this is when the English version came out. And so, right now is that, at least, in terms of booster packs, it's been a little bit hard to find, but, there's definitely plenty of the starter decks, and so it's definitely what we're going to be looking at in just a moment. So, well, as usual, when I do any kind of tabletop game stream, I do have to mention that, I do not want to ruin my very valuable acquisitions using my clumsy cat paws and cat claws, so I'm going to cast Mage Hand really quickly, and Mage Hand is going to walk us through the demonstration that we're going to be having tonight. So, here we are. These are the boxes that the starter decks come in, and these are really nice looking boxes. There's so much that, I want to try to preserve these, and I want to try to keep them in good condition so that I can take them with me to the comic shop, etc. And so, this here is, it resembles a manga book cover, and it's even the fact that, the side panels also are numbered and just have a book, and have a spine in the same way that a manga book cover would have. And so you could put these on a shelf and, nobody would be the wiser. And so, these are incredibly nice looking. You see, there's both a Bandai Namco logo, which is manufacturer, and then just a regular Bandai logo, which is the English publisher of the game. And so there are currently 4 of these sets, and they're each a very specific color. And so the red set, of course, is the Straw Hat Crew piece. The back sides of them have just a list of every card that's in the starter deck. Just very, very large text and very clear. And so this is Volume 1. This is the Straw Hat Crew. Volume 2 is the Worst Generation set, and it's in the color green. Volume 3 is in the color blue, and it is the 7 Warlords of the Sea set. And number 4 is in purple, and it is the Animal Kingdom Pirate set. So I went ahead and I put out the playmat so that we would have a moment in order to just very briefly describe how the game is generally played. So every one of these decks is a 50 card deck, and every card actually has a leader card. So the leader card is probably one of the only permanents in the game, other than the mana cards, and we'll take a moment in order to see specifically how the mana cards work. So that's a hefty looking card. Well, the thing is that it is printed on slightly thicker paperboard, but it is also a little bit smaller. Because for those of you who know the size difference between Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon cards and standard Magic cards, these cards are actually the same size as standard Magic cards. They're a little bit smaller. So, effectively, you start out by setting out your leader card. Your leader card does have a sizable amount of attack to it. That's about, this one for Luffy is about 5,000 attack. And there's also a little icon that says that this card is worth 5 life. So the object of the game is to knock out your leader, and to knock out your leader you have to successfully attack them 5 times and then collect a series of life cards that are going to be on the side, placed on the side over here. So from there, you take your standard deck and you shuffle it. I went ahead and I used sleeves that color code the deck the same color as the cards in the starter deck. That's just the way that I like to keep things organized. So, I'll shuffle here, just really quickly. Okay. Put it in the deck slot. Underneath the deck slot, of course, is the discard slot. So, at the start of a person's turn, the first thing that you do is you draw 5 cards. Okay, and after you have your hand that has 5 cards in it, oops, that one's upside down. That one's upside down too. That one is also upside down. And so once you have your hand of 5 cards, then the next thing that you do is that you put 5 cards in the life section. And so this is what your general character health is going to be. So the interesting thing about this is this is similar. This is a very similar to Pokemon, but the key difference is that you don't get these prizes as a result of knocking out an opponent's character. Instead, if your opponent succeeds in attacking you and you don't have the ability to block it, then you take one of these cards and you add them to your hand, which gives you a slight advantage every single time that you've been attacked. So it works a little bit in reverse from how it is typically done in Pokemon. And so speaking of mechanics that come from other games, is that a similar mechanic to Magic is that we have mana cards in this game, and these are called Dawn cards. Dawn cards, effectively, they just have a POW symbol on them, a Japanese character that says Dan. And so those of you who are familiar with the manga, yeah, know that the more sound effects that there are in a single panel, the more powerful an attack potentially is. And we're going to get into how that plays in the game in a moment. But this is effectively how the down cards works. If you win the coin toss and you get the opportunity to go first, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put out one down card. You're going to tap that down card for a single character card that might be in your hand based on the cost symbol that is at the top of the card. So I have a one card, and that one card is Tony Chopper, and I'm going to put it in the character area. So the more characters you have in the field, the more opportunities that you have to actually attack. And so if I were the player that were to go first, this would be the extent of my first turn. And I don't get the ability to attack. Then it passes to the opponent. The opponent would actually take 2 Dawn cards and put them on during their first turn. And so that is just, to keep the numbers relatively even. And so they get the opportunity to use 2 cards. They can populate their character area with a card that is worth at least 2 Dawn, and then they would also have to end their turn without attacking. So after that first round is completely over, we go into round 2, and then both players are going to have the opportunity to attack. Going back to my having gone first, then I would be able to put 2 more Dawn cards onto the field. And so every turn from this point forward, you put 2 Dawn cards up into the field. You have a limit of 10 Dawn cards in every single deck. So once you reach the number 10, then that's the maximum amount of any mana that any one of these decks tend to possess. So the very next thing that you have to do is you have to go into battle. So at any time, any of your character cards, including your leader card, has the ability to battle. In order to battle an opponent, you basically take this character attack number that is at the top right corner of the card, and then you use that in order to attack your opponents for at least the same or more points than their character card might have. So even if I were to attack a card on my opponent's field and it was 1,000 points, the same as Tony Chopper is, then I would actually win that duel. They would have to throw their card in the discard because I was the attacker and they were the defender. There is a little bit of a caveat to that, is that there are several cards that just have a tab sideways on the card that says counter on it. So if you're in the person who is actually defending the attack, like if you were my opponent right now, and you had a character that was at 1,000, then you would add this 1,000 to that character to make it 2,000, and that's what would prevent the attack from going through. In order to do that, you have to take this card and then you have to throw it into the trash, which means that you're effectively burning character cards either from your hand or from your character area in order to defend your character from attack. And so effectively this starts just to become a war of attrition, is that you and your opponent are going to go back and forth, and you are going to try to make sure that your attack number is always going to be higher than your opponent's number. Once you fail to do that, then your character will get killed. And so once your character gets killed, is that if they're a character that's up here in the character area, they just get discarded. They get thrown in the trash. But if they manage to do that to your leader character, what will happen is then you will take one of the cards from the life section and then you will add it to your hand. So here I have the card that was previously in my life section. It wouldn't have ordinarily been in my deck, but now it's in my hand. But because this is down one lower, that means that I would be behind another player. And so that is basically how the basic attack and defense rules work. When it comes to card special effects, they mostly have to do with either removing characters from the character area, replacing cards in the character area and returning them to your hand, and just effectively using effects that temporarily change the field in a way that has to be strategically advantageous to what might happen in this situation. So, of course, every leader card has an effect. Luffy's effect that says, activate main once per turn. You give this leader or one of your characters one rested Don card. So, something else I should have mentioned about Don cards is that if you have a significant number of these on the field, you've already spent a certain amount of Don doing another summon. Like, for example, let's say I spent 3 Don in order to summon another card from my hand, which is going to be Jinbei. Then I have 2 remaining Don that I have not yet used. I also have the option of attaching Don specifically to the character, and every time you do that, you raise that character's attack score by 1,000. So 5,000 plus the 2,000 that are from the Don cards are going to go onto Jinbei, and that is going to give him an attack of 7,000. So, in the event that you attack with this character and you're successful, these become tap 2. And so, just like with Magic, you probably don't want to use up all of your energy cards in one turn. You probably still want to leave some untapped so that once it gets to your opponent's turn, you can tap some cards and you can play defense cards. So defense cards usually come in the form of just special. They're yellow border cards that usually just have a panel on them. Like this one. This is Guard Point, which is one of the special moves that Chopper has. A guard point is considered a counter card. That's what it says on the red bar. It says counter. And it says the leader of one of your characters gains plus 300 power during your battle. So if you wanted to defend your leader in particular while you were on your opponent's turn, you would spend the 1 Don, tap it in order to play this card, and then the leader character, which would be Luffy in this case, would go up 3,000 points and potentially bounce an attack that was declared against him. And that's effectively the way that counter cards work. There's one other type of card, and it's called the stage card. So let me see if I can find the one out of this deck. This one, okay. So stages just kind of have environments that are taken from the manga that will effectively change the rules of battle, and they go into the stage card section, which is going to be to the right of the Luffy card. And so this one is called 1,000 Sunny. When you can rest the stage, a Straw Hat Crew type leader or character card in your field gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. So this is similar to a land permanent. And so if this was on the field, then you could pick one character every turn, and that one person would gain 1,000 attack points. And effectively, these cards are very specific to certain kinds of characters, and these are probably the only deck-specific cards in the entire game. So that would mean that once again, all of these are color-coded. Even on the front ends of these cards, all of these cards are red. And the reason that they're red is that they belong in the Straw Hat Pirates deck. And so that is that is really the majority of the way that the rules work is that effectively this is a battle game. And so the battle game effectively takes the form of a type of where game where you and your opponent try to trade off attack power levels until one player has the strongest one, and then you have to deal with card effects like having cards destroyed or having to lose one of your life points for your main character card. And so that is my summary of the basic rules. Of course, if you're confused about it, they do have basic tutorials online, etc. Yeah, it's interesting. And so I'm really excited about this because, this combines a lot of mechanics from some other TCG games, but it does so in a way that is very, very conscious of how these card rules are played and how well your card population tends to work for you. And so Devin asks if anybody's adapted into online version. They probably haven't yet. If there's any homebrews about it, I would start looking for it on like a platform like Tabletop Simulator. But I'm sure before long, they're going to make an official online version of this game because, those things are worth big money these days, and especially in the gaming field. So I finished describing the basic rules of the game. The very next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at through all four of the starter decks. And so once again, I'm taking out the Straw Hat starter deck. We're going to look at it first. So Monkey D. Luffy, of course, is the leader of the Straw Hat Pirates deck. So we're going to see a lot of repeat cards as I'm going through this, and I'm probably just going to sort them out across the table as they materialize. Okay, so Nico Robin, 5,000 attack points and no special ability. Let's see, Rarana Zoro, 5,000 points, and the special ability where if you attach one Don to it, it gains an additional 1,000 power. So a single Don is actually worth 2,000 instead of 1,000. Very powerful attack card. And so in this game, holo cards are usually reserved for characters that are the largest characters in the starter deck. And at least that's how it works as far as the starter deck is concerned. Okay. Sanji, 4,000 attack points. If you add 2 Dawn to him, he gains the ability to rush, which means that it can attack the turn when it was played. And so once again is that, once just like in Magic, when you summon the character, they have to wait one turn before attacking. And so that's true in this game too. But if you actually manage to attach the 2 Dawn to Sanji, then they'll get the ability to attack right away. Here's another Sanji. Here's a Karoo, 3,000 attack points and no special ability. Okay, the 1,000 Sunny card, which I've already described. This is Nami, 1,000 attack points. Once per turn, you can give a Rested Dawn card to your leader or one of your characters. So that allows you to just attach a Rested Dawn card into a character, and so that takes it out of the already tapped field and then puts it on one of their characters, which will allow you to add 1,000 attack points during your turn. Okay, another Nami. This is Chopper. Chopper has 1,000 and has a blocker ability that states that after your opponent declares an attack, you may rest this card and make it the new target of the attack. So that's what makes this a blocking card, because if somebody declares an attack against a specific character, then you can reroute that to Chopper, and then Chopper will more than likely lose that battle because of its low attack points. Jinbei is a 5,000 attack, has a special ability that your leader or one of your character when you're attacking, your leader or one of your characters other than this card gains 1,000 power during this turn. So that adds 1,000 attack points to another character. There's another Jinbei. This is Diablo Jambe. This is one of the effect cards. And so you choose a Straw Hat Crew type leader or character, and your opponent cannot activate block if that leader or character attacks during this turn. So that prevents your opponent from blocking if you pay the extra cost in order to bring out that card. So this is Frankie, 6,000 life points and no special ability. Okay, Vivi, 4,000 and no special ability. And so a significant amount of the cards that don't have special abilities also do have the blocker tab on them, so you do have to keep that in mind whenever you're using whenever you have those cards in your hand. Okay, Robin, well, another Robin. Usopp, when attacking, your opponent can activate a blocker character that has 5,000 or more power during this battle. So if you try to block with an amount more than 5,000 points, then Usopp will block that attack. So this is a Luffy character card, and so this one is different from the leader card because these just go into the regular deck. And so this is 6,000 life points. This does have a rush, and it also has, if you add 2 Dawn when attacking, your opponent cannot activate a blocker, which means that this card can just go ahead and they can go through and attack. So, okay, another Robin. This is a Brook. 3,000 on a play, give 2 rested Dawn cards to your leader or one of your characters. So this is a slightly stronger version of the Nami effect. And so some of these cards, they have the same effects, but they're played at slightly higher attack levels. So this is a Gum Gum Jet Pistol. This is another effect card. It allows you to KO one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. So another Karoo. This is another Frankie. Okay, this is another Brook. This is another Chopper. Okay, this is another another Jinbei. Okay, this is another Gum Gum Jet Pistol. I think I was putting those in with the field cards. They're insanely appealing to look at, and so probably the most significant thing of a lot of these cards there are the manga panels that have actually been colored. See, another guard point. Big, blocky, and simple, but so clean. So what you're effectively seeing is the mangaka's original art in these original cards, and you're seeing it colored. So I think that's what's so striking about the artwork on these cards. There's another Vivi. There's another Robin. There's another Chopper. There's another Frankie. There's another Sanji. There's another Vivi. And so given, the very short-handed nature of the battle on this, it is necessary to have a significant amount of repeated cards because you need to make sure that the cards that you are using have the opportunity in order to actually spawn while you're playing. So that's why there's so many multiples of these. There's another Usopp. There's another Chopper. There's another Luffy. There's another Karoo. And Usopp, another Usopp, and then another Nami, another 1,000 Sunny, another Jinbei, another Karoo, Diablo Jambe. Okay, yeah, we already read the effect of that card. It's just a repeat of that one. And so then Frankie, another Zoro. So, Zoro is probably the biggest attacker in this deck other than Luffy, so he's also the one who gets the foil cards. another guard point, and then that's Vivi, that's Nami, and finally that's Sanji, and that's the whole 50 card deck. Now, let me take all this, let me jumble it all together and put it to the side so we can look at the cards that are in the other 3 starter decks. Okay, so this is set number 2, the green. And I'm trying to remember, this is the worst generation card set. The leader card in this one is Eustace Captain Kidd. Attack of 5,000, has a special ability that you can rest a specified number of Dawn cards in your cost area and trash 1 card from your hand, and then set the leader as active. So after this character has been attacked and is put into a tapped mode, you can put a Dawn card on it in order to activate it again. And so very likely that means that you were going to attack a second time using it. Very deadly. And so, okay, so Beppo, 3,000 points and no effect. There's another Beppo. So a significant amount of these have not been shuffled, so we're probably going to see a lot of repeat cards from this point forward. Beppo. Okay, Killer, 3,000 attack points. Special ability is to KO one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 3 or less. Alright. This one is Vito, 5,000 attack and no special ability. Kobe is a 6,000 attack and no special ability. Okay. Scalpel, special ability card. This one says that your leader of one of your characters gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. Then set a Dawn card as active. So, upon tapping this card, you give 2,000 power to your leader card, and then afterwards, you can untap one of your Dawn cards. So, okay, that's another killer. Okay, this is Heat, 4,000 life points. 4,000 points and no special ability. Another Heat. This one is X Drake, 5,000 points. Its special ability is this character. When the character is rested, your Supernova or Navy type leaders and characters gain plus 1,000 power. So any of the cards in this set gain 1,000 power after this card is tapped. So, okay, say another Heat. Scalpel. Your leader, one of your characters, gains 2,000 power during this battle, then set one of your Dawn cards as... Oh, actually, we did read that one before. It's just a repeat of that one. Okay, this is another Vita. This one is a Repel effect card. Your leader or one of your characters gains plus 4,000 power during the battle. Then you set one of your Dawn cards as active. So it's like the Scalpel, but it is much more powerful. Okay, another Repel. Another X-Drake. Okay, Scratchman Apu, which is 3,000 attack points. It has the special ability that when you attack, you rest one of your opponent's Dawn cards. So that just takes away one of the potential one of the abilities that your opponent might use in order to retaliate against you. Okay, another Kobe. Another Beppo. Say another Repel. Another Vito. And this one is X-Drake. Okay, I accidentally left some extra Dawn cards in here. Another Kobe. Say this is Aruge. If you add a Dawn to this and you have 3 or more characters, this card gains plus 2,000 power. So this becomes stronger if there are a lot of characters on the bench. Another Kobe. Another X-Drake. This one is Jewelry Bonnie. When you activate, you can rest this card, look up to the top 5 cards at the top of your deck, reveal 1 Supernova's type card, and then add it to your hand, and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in an order. So this is effectively the same as scrying. Alright. Another Ruge. This one is Capone Gang BG. After your opponent declares an attack, you can rest this card and make it the new target of the attack. So this is the same as using Chopper as the blocker card. Okay, another BG. Another BG. Okay, I think that's all 4 BGs that are in the deck. Another Apo. This is Basil Hawkins. If this character battles your opponent's character, set it as active. So let me see. So that means if this character battles a character card that is not the leader card, then you can set this card as active, and presumably you'll be able to attack a second time. Another Bonnie. Another Heat. See, where did I put Heat? It's right over here. Okay. Okay, so this is the character card for Captain Kidd. And this one is worth 7,000. And if you add a Dawn, then at the end of this turn, you can set this card as active. So it's really significant to say at the end of your turn, because that means that this card, after it's tapped, if it's set active at the end of this turn, that means that it's capable of defending again. And it is a very powerful card. It has 7,000 points on it. Okay, another Bonnie. Okay, here's another Captain Kidd character card. So yeah, those are particularly pretty because the foil contrasted with the full panel art is really, 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 really lovely. There's a Bonnie. This is Trafalgar Law. Law appears in 2 different decks, this one and the blue deck, so probably to illustrate that they're something of a free agent. When you play this card, you set one of your Supernovas or your Harp Pirates type rested characters with a cost of 5 or less as active. So, after you play that card, you can take a card that you have already tapped if it's power 5 or less and make it active again. Okay, another Law. This is the Straw Sword special ability. It allows you to rest one of your opponent's characters, which means that you just can pay the cost and then automatically tap an opponent's character. This is another Veto. This is another Straw Sword. Another Apo. Another Apo. This is another Repel. And this one is Basil Hawkins. So you see probably the max that you see in every one of these decks is 4, and probably the lowest number that you see in any of these decks is 2. Okay, that was almost perfectly clean. All right. So, deck number 3. This one is called the Seven Warlords of the Sea. The leader card in this one is Crocodile. Crocodile has the ability that if you spend 4 Dawn cards on it, you can return one creature with a cost of 5 or less to your owner's hand. So then you can really just use this card in order to kick cards that are less than 5 power, and then put it back into the owner's hand. That's what the special ability for that is. Okay, so Pacifista, 6,000 life points and no special ability. This one is Sables. You return a character with a cost of 7 or less to the owner's hand. So this is like an ability card that you don't have to pay the same amount of cost to as you would with Crocodile. And so this one seems to be the deck specialty, is returning cards to your owner's hand. Okay. Jinbei is in this deck in addition to the Straw Hat Pirates deck. He's 4,000 attack and no special ability. Love Mellow is an ability card. The leader of one of your characters gains 4,000 power during this battle, and then draw 1 card if you have 3 cards or less in your hand. It's very good for replenishment. Okay, Buggy is 3,000 attack and no special ability. Another Pacifista. This is Boa Hancock. Boa's special ability is that if your opponent declares an attack, you may rest this card and make it the new target of the attack. So this is a blocker card the same way that Chopper is. Okay, so Marshall D. Teach, 4,000, has a special ability, returns a character with a cost of 3 or less into the hand. So yeah, different characters of different levels. If you use this deck against them, then those cards are actually going back into your hand. And so, another level of Mellow. Another Jinbei. Another Jinbei. 4th Jinbei. Bartholomew Kuma has 3,000, has a special ability. Look at the top 3 cards from your top of your deck and return them to the top of the bottom of the deck in any order. Alright. Okay. Trafalgar Law, once again, in this deck, he is one of the lower cost cards in this deck with a 1. And he's a blocker card too. His special ability says, after your opponent declares an attack, you can rest this card and to make it the new target of the attack. Okay, another Law. Thrust Pad Cannon. Counter card, return a character with a cost of 3 or less into the owner's hand. So, this is probably one of the larger cards in this set. This is Don Quixote do Flamingo. You return 1 character with a cost of 7 or less to that owner's hand once you play this card. So you play this card and you immediately kick out probably one of the most powerful characters in your opponent's deck. And Gecko Moria, 5,000 attack. On play, add the 7 Warlords character with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your deck to your hand. Another Gecko. Another Thrust Pad Cannon. Dracule Millhawk is 5,000. When you attack, you can draw 2 cards and you can trash 2 cards from your hand. So this is kind of a risky card to use because you have to make sure that you count the number of cards that are in your hand. Because after a while, this might become a liability where if you have less than 2 cards in your hand, then you would draw 2 cards, you would immediately drop them, and you would still have an empty hand. So you have to watch out for that one. Here's the character card for Crocodile. On a block, you place a character with a cost of 2 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Another Thrust Pad Cannon. This is another Pacifista. This is another Sables. This is another Boa Hancock. This is another Sables. Okay, this is another Doflamingo. This is another Shables. Okay, this is a Crocodile character card. Okay, this is another Kuma. This one is another Millhawk. This one is another Hancock. This one is Sentamaru. 4,000 attack points. Added Dawn. Once per turn, play one Pacifista with a cost of 4 less from your deck, and then shuffle your deck. So this card effectively allows you to draw this card. Another Boa Hancock. Another Kuma. Edward Weevil. Okay, I don't think we've seen this one. That's 5,000 attack points and no special ability. See, I think I'm spreading these a little bit broader than I have previously. Okay, so another Teach, another Kuma, another Buggy, another Weevil, another Weevil, another Buggy, another Weevil, another Law. See, another Sentamaru, another Thrust Pad Cannon, and another Buggy, and finally another Law. This one came together nice and smooth. This is what I like about brand new cards. Alrighty, so we're at our fourth and our final set here. This is the Animal Kingdom set. Nice and fresh, yes, nice and fresh. Okay, the leader card in this deck is Kaido, is a Bullman, and let's see. For 7, let me see, return. So if you were to take 7 cards from your field and then return them to the Dawn deck, then you would get the special ability to trash one of your opponent's life cards. Which means that if you were to spend that very high cost of Dawn cards, which you would have to replenish 2 at a time later, then you would need to, then you would just be able to take a life away from an opponent. So that is a pretty scary special ability. Okay, so this one, Ulti, who I believe is Kaido's daughter, or sister, or something like that. 5,000 attack points. Special ability is return the play one page 1 card with a cost of 4 left from your hand. And so page 1 cards, I think, are exclusive to this set. So once we see one, we'll know exactly what it looks like. Okay. Second ulti. Third ulti. And Sasaki, 4,000 attack points. Return a Dawn card to your field to the Dawn deck and then draw 1 card. So, we're starting to see a pattern when it comes to the effects on this deck. You actually do have to eliminate a significant amount of your Dawn cards and then slowly replenish them if you want to play this deck effectively. Another Sasaki. Sheep's Head, 4,000, no special ability. Another ulti. Okay, another Sheep's Head. Another Sheep's Head. And another Sheep's Head. This is a Jack, 4,000 attack. Special ability is that you can trash 1 card and add 1 card from your Dawn deck and then set it as active. Okay, another Jack. Okay, this is Jin Rummy, 3,000 attack and no special ability. Wow. I really slapped that one out of my own hand. Okay, another Jin Rummy. Another Gin Rummy. This is probably the deck that I've rifled through the least, so there are probably going to be a lot of repeat cards here. Okay, Who's Who, 3,000 attack. You can use this to KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. Another Who's Who. Black Maria, 2,000 attack points. After a blocker card, you can rest this card to make it the new target of the attack. So that all the blocker cards in the starter decks, they do appear to just have the exact same ability. Okay, another Black Maria. Third Black Maria. Fourth Black Maria. This is page 1, 6,000 attack and no special ability. Okay. Onishima Island. This is really the only other field card that we have seen. The only other one is in the Straw Hat Pirates deck. Alright, so when you can rest this stage if your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So effectively having this card in your field allows you to undo a lot of the effects of the other cards. If you were to put 1 card back into your main deck, then you could use this in order to replenish it to your field, but it has to come in tapped. That's the way that works. Okay, there's a second one. Okay, this is the Kaido character card. He has 10,000 attack, which is probably the largest attack of any of the cards in the starter deck right now. Okay, so if you throw away 5 Dawn cards, your opponent's characters... I'm sorry, excuse me. If you return 5 Dawn cards to the deck, then this character gains Rush during this turn, it's probably just like a one-time use ability. If you bring this card out immediately, then you would pay the cost of 5 Dawn in order to allow it to attack immediately. And since this card has 10,000 attack, that means that it's a very powerful attack. It's more than likely going to go right to your leader. Okay. King, 7,000 life points. And so probably, yeah, my scan doesn't really do this one justice. Is that he's just a character draped head to toe in leather armor. And so... okay, on play, if you throw away a Dawn card, then you can knock out one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. Okay. Another page 1. He looks gnarly. Another page 1. And so, I really like One Piece just for the character design. They have some incredible... old school anime style character designs. This is Queen. Queen has 6,000 attack. It can be used as a blocker card, but also if you throw away a Dawn card, you can draw 2 cards and then trash a card from your hand. Alright. Okay, another King. Okay, another page 1. Okay, another X-Drake. Well, actually, we've seen X-Drake in another set, but not in this one just yet. He has 5,000 attack points, and he has no special ability. Put that one here. Okay, second X-Drake. Third X-Drake. Okay, another Queen. Another Sakaki. Another Drake. So this is another Kaido. Okay, this is a Kaido character card, the same as the other one. 10,000 attack points. Very deadly. Lead Performer Disaster. This is an effect card. You can draw a card and then add 1 card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So you're probably going to want to, if you have 4 mana, you're probably going to want to tap this in order to get the extra energy, because you need to use these cards almost constantly in order to replenish the energy after it's drained by the majority of this deck. Let's see. Another lead performer disaster. Brachio Bomber. So, KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less, then add a Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So, the effect cards actually help you to bring energy back onto the field, whereas your character cards are going to eliminate it. Barack Obama. I did not say that. Okay. Brachio Bomber. Blast Breath. Remove a Dawn in order to make the leader of your characters gain 4,000 power. So the leader of this deck is already 8,000, 9, 10, 11, 12. This will boost... this will boost Kaida as a leader card up to 1,200 points. Another Blast Breath. Third Blast Breath. Fourth Blast Breath. Another Onigashima Island. Another Onigashima Island. And finally a Sasaki. And so those are the 4 decks from the One Piece starter set. I don't know a lot about how this game intends to expand, because so far I haven't been able to find out where the booster cards are. But at least for this one set, I would presume that, these cards are still going to remain color-coded, using these same 4 colors, at least during Series 1. And you would add each appropriate card to each starter set. And so then, you would probably get, a few cards that have special abilities and tend to replace these cards that only have attack. I was going to ask, it seems like it'd be kind of tricky since cards are limited to crews. Well, so I think every TCG kind of has a tendency to have that element, because, particularly when you think of a game like Magic, or if you think of a game like Yu-Gi-Oh!, the cards are really only limited to one specific theme set that came out during one specific theme series. So, while I was at the comic book store today, I was actually playing Magic again, and I was mostly playing using the Baldur's Gate deck set. And so the Baldur's Gate deck set only really has cards that have effects that are complementary to the same color mana cards in that set. Like, all the green cards work with each other, all the red cards work with each other, all of the blue cards work with each other. So, that doesn't seem to be much different from this, except the fact is that you are limited to one single color for every card set. So, make of that what you will. It's, in some ways, it's the lack of versatility when it comes to putting together TCG cards is what, helps make these things more collectible, because, you're probably going to end up buying multiple booster packs in order to find the card that you need. Either that, or you would buy them in single card format and add them to your deck. And that's where these cards actually start to go up in collector's value. So, anyways, that concludes this section of tonight's stream. I'm going to take a short break, get a little bit of water, change around the stage format, and then we are going to get to our tonight's reading of the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide. Yeah, I like them. It seems pretty fun. I enjoyed it when I played my demo game. Alrighty, so I'm going to be right back in a second. We're going to switch gears. We're going to get on the Dungeons & Dragons channel, and we're going to read our tabletop lore. Thank you, everybody, for having tuned in so far. This is Brainy the RPG Cat. We'll be right back.
my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies. Thought I could trust you, I find out you tried to zone me. I'm number one up on that court, I'm Nick McGrady. The first one in, the last one out, can't call me lazy. Put in my hours, send the invoice and they pay me. I need 6 rings like MJ and Tom Brady. I wake up, flex, thumb down that check. No drip this, wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down that check. No drip this, wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. Y'all gon' make me take that trip way out to Europe. I call up Nigeria, come through in a hurry. Those London boys don't come to play, you should get worried. One false move, find yourself, they getting buried. Dance with the devil, used to love playing those games. Made some bad decisions that brought my mama pain. I made a promise to her, swore that I would change. I'm on the come up, bet I live up to my name. I wake up, flex, thumb down that check. No drip this, wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down that check. No drip this, wet. Tell 'em run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell 'em run it up.
Alright, welcome back to Brainy the RPG Cat. So we're picking up slightly with our read-through of the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. It just occurs to me that I did the entire first half of this stream without having my second monitor on. So I'm just going to take a half a second in order to turn that on so I can use a dual monitor at least while I'm reading. That's what would be helpful. That would be good. Alright, so we're going to start talking about the section about magic. I think we were at least mostly finished with the section that was on history. And so, let's see. Yeah, went old school there. Whoops. Well, I've accidentally shown off just a little bit of my infrastructure here. Alright. Take that window, put that window over there, take this window, expand it over here. Okay, there we go. Magic in the Realms. From the simplest cantrip to the mightiest workings of high magic. The blessings of healing, mercy to the raising of mighty heroes from the dead. Magic permeates the realms, any understanding of magic begins, and ends with an understanding of the weak. Okay, actually we did read a little bit of this, let me see. See where we might have left out. Yeah, magic items. We talked about magic items. So we're actually in this section. Okay, well, I made a little bit of a gaffe there. We're actually in this section. This section is called Mythals. And what are Mythals? I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Mythals are some of the most powerful magic in the world of Toril, constructs that bind and shape the weave in a particular location, sometimes so powerfully that the rules of magic or even reality can be bent or rewritten. A mythal is a permanent field of overlapping magical wards and effects tied to a specific location. In its original usage, the term is applied to the works of high magic that protected ancient elven cities. It has since been expanded to cover all manner of similar protections, from the immense floating cities of the fallen Netheril to the wards of Silvery Moon, to the smaller but no less effective workings of magic that keep safe important locations like Candlekeep. Even in the many-layered wards and effects of Undermountain beneath water depth are considered a mythal by some. Most mythals are defensive in nature, designed to restrict the kinds of magic that can be employed in the area they govern, and the most common restrictions are concerned with teleportation and conjuration magic. Evereska's mythal influences the weather of the area and wards its inhabitants against disease, while the mythal of undersea Myth-Natar makes its waters breathable and more comfortable for creatures that aren't suited to underwater life. In many ways, a mythal is less like a spell or a magic item than a living creation of magic capable of growing stronger or weaker, absorbing damage, or dying. Mythals can also sometimes heal themselves, as did the mythal of Silvery Moon. blossoming out of the moon bridge, following Mistra's most recent return. Each active mythal has one or more beings attuned to its effects who can ignore any restrictions on spellcasting, can target targetable effects of the mythal, and can teach others of appropriate skill how to access its secrets. Except in cities such as Silvery Moon and Avaresca, adventurers are most likely to encounter damaged or failing mythals in ruined locations where magic once had great influence. Although an identified spell might reveal some of the simplest effects of a mythal, active restrictions on spellcasting can be discovered only by trying and failing to cast a prohibited spell. A powerful spellcaster might learn how to access or repair a mythal without assistance, but such feats are legendary and rarely attempted by even the most renowned of mages. Any elven city with myth in its title, such as Myth Draenor, Myth Galrach, Myth Nantor, others had or once had a mithril protecting it. The ruins of such places are certain to have unpredictable effects related to their damaged or destroyed mythals. So, weave affecting magic. Certain spells allows casters to perceive or manipulate the effects of the weave in particular ways. The weave also has regularities that affect spells. Detect magic reveals threads of the weave woven together. Dispel magic unwinds and prematurely ends magic, unraveling whatever sort of construct was put in place. Anti-magic can dispel existing spells and unravel any magic woven from the weave, and permanent effects, such as those from the magic items, are equally suppressed by anti-magic. While the effect is within an area of anti-magic, the construct of the weave unravels, but the threads snap back into place once magic is outside of the area. Dead magic. In rare areas of dead magic, the weave is absent. Not only do spells and magic items cease to function, but even the supernatural abilities of creatures that are innately tied to the weave might fail as the knot of the weave they carry with them unravels. And in wild magic, the weave becomes tangled, spontaneously forming its own constructs and resulting magic. It also tends to twist the constructs of the weave created by spellcasting, causing unexpected results. Okay, now we're going to talk about religion in the realm. Although wizards work wonders with their art and adventurers take their fates into their own hands, it is on the gods that most folk in the Forgotten Realms depend when they have need. The gods play a role in the lives of nearly everyone, from the mightiest lord to the meanest urchin. The various races of Toril worship their pantheons, which remain largely the same from religion to religion, with different cultures and societies, emphasizing some deities over others. Although some exceptions exist, the gods of Mulholland, for example, all the gods are revered across all of Faerun. Yeah, Parage. Forms of worship. The average person worships different gods in different contexts. Most locations have a patron deity. Farmers make offerings to Shantae for the prosperity of their crops. Clerics sharpen their quills with a prayer to the Near, while pious merchants remember to set coins aside for walking at the end of the day. Most people worship a deity associated with their livelihood, family, or home, while others feel a call to a particular god for a variety of reasons. Individuals often carry or wear a small token of their favorite deity, a pendant or a pin in the image of the god's holy symbol, or some other personal keepsake. In addition, people regularly venerate gods based on their needs and circumstances. A farmer whose favorite deity is Shantae would pray to Amaranto for a few clear sunny days, and a Waterdaven noble who habitually worships Denir would give thanks to Sune after a successful coming out party for her son. Even priests of particular gods acknowledge that the roles that their deities play in the world and in their lives. In general, worshippers view their relationships with the gods as practical and reciprocal. They pray and make offerings because that is how one invites in blessings of gods and turns away their wrath. These prayers and other acts of devotion are generally performed quietly at the shrine in one's household or community, or occasionally in a temple dedicated to one's deity, when a worshipper feels the need to come knocking down the god's door to ask for attention. Forms of worship are often acts of veneration, giving thanks for favors shown, making requests for future blessings, and offering praise for the deity's intercessions, large and small. Because most folk in Faerun don't want to attract the ire of the cruel or savage gods, beseeching them to keep the peace is also an act of worship. A hunter or a farmer might make offerings to Malar in hopes of keeping predators at bay, and a sailor might pray to Umberlee that she withhold her wrath during the duration of a voyage. New and foreign gods. The Faerunian pantheon isn't the only one known on Toril. Non-human races honor their own gods, for example, and people in faraway lands are known to worship altogether different gods. Occasionally, foreigners bring the worship of these gods to Faerun. In addition, on rare occasions, a new god comes into being, perhaps a mortal, elevated to godhood, or a deity whose arrival was foretold by prophets and leaders of new religion. In cosmopolitan places, such as Waterdeep and Kalmishan, small shrines and temples to strange gods spring up from time to time. The burgeoning worship of a new deity is rarely concerned to the other gods of the Faerunian pantheon, and the people who revere those deities, except when a newcomer's area of concern directly competes with that of an established deity. The methods of resolving such conflicts range from friendly dueling festivals or rites meant to emphasize the glory of one god or another, to campaigns of outright religious bloodshed. That's just the range of things. Other generations, a new god might become settled in a member of the pantheon. Some scholars posit that Faerun has many immigrant gods, quote-unquote, who joined the pantheon's ranks so long ago that their foreign origins are lost in antiquity. Dead and resurrected gods. Over and over, mourning bells have told for some of the deities of the realm. Gods were struck down during the time of troubles, when the spell plague wrought its destruction, and most recently when Netheril fell. Some deities have even been slain by mortals, wielding impossibly powerful magic. When a god withdraws from a pantheon, divine magic stops flowing to the faithful, and miracles and omens associated with that god cease. That deity's priesthood loses faith, and holy sites are abandoned or are taken over by other faiths. To the deity's worshippers in the world, it is immaterial whether the god is truly dead or merely dormant. The consequences for them are the same either way. Yet, as recent events have borne out, a god who is gone might not remain absent forever. More than a few supposedly dead gods have returned and amassed a new body of worshippers. Indeed, the legends of some gods speak of a cycle of death and resurrection. As a sage of Shadowdale once noted, if the gods can grant the power to raise mortals from death, why do you assume that they should be laid low by it forever? In the afterlife, you're gonna find yourself some serious strife. Most humans believe that the souls of the recently deceased are spirited away to the fugue plane, where they wander the great city of judgment, often unaware that they are dead. The servants of the gods come to collect such souls, and if they are worthy, they're taken to their awaited afterlife in the deity's domain. Occasionally, the faithful are sent back to be reborn into the world to finish work that was left undone. Souls that are claimed by the servants of the gods are judged by Kelvamore, who decides the fate of each one. Some are charged with serving as guides for other lost souls, while others are transformed into squirming larvae and cast into dust. The Faerunian Pantheon. So this is really just a big chart discussing every single domain of every single existing god in the Forgotten Realms. So I'm going to abridge this a bit. I'm probably only going to read the deity section. Akkadi, goddess of air; Amunator, god of the sun; Asmodeus, god of indulgence; Azrael, goddess of winter; Azuth, god of wizardry; Bane, god of tyranny; Beshaba, goddess of misfortune; Baal, god of murder; Shantae, goddess of agriculture; Sirik, god of lies; Danir, god of writing; Eldath, goddess of peace; Gon, god of craft; Grumbar, god of earth; Gwerion Windstrom, god of tracking; Helm, god of watchfulness; Hor, god of revenge and retribution; Elmater, god of endurance; Ishtia, god of water; Jergal, scribe of the dead; Kelvamore, god of the dead; Kulsuth, god of fire; Lathander, god of dawn and renewal. Yeah, many, many gods. Lyra, goddess of illusion; Lilira, goddess of joy; Loviatar, goddess of pain; Malar, god of the hunt; Bast, god of thieves; Malkili, goddess of forests; Melil, god of poetry and song; Merkel, god of death; Mistra, goddess of magic; Agma, god of knowledge; the Red Knight, goddess of strategy; Savras, god of divination and faith; Saloon, goddess of the moon; Shar, goddess of darkness and loth; Sylvanius, god of wild nature; Sun, god of love and beauty. Or maybe it's Sune. Sune, goddess of love and beauty. Talona, goddess of poison and disease; Talos, god of storms; Tempest, god of war; Torm, god of courage and self-sacrifice; Tymora, goddess of good fortune; Tyr, god of justice; Umberlee, goddess of the sea; Valkur, Northlander, god of sailors; and Walkeen, goddess of trade. Religious institutions. Those who serve as the priests of a god aren't necessarily clerics. Indeed, the power invested in clerics and other divine spellcasters by the gods is given out only rarely. See divine magic. The work of a priest is to serve one's deity and that deity's faithful, a task that doesn't necessarily require the use of magic. The kind of person attracted to a deity's priesthood depends on the tenets of that god. The cunning rogues who venerate Mask have little in common with the upright law-keepers of Tyr, and the delightful revelers who revere Lilithra are different from both. Temples and shrines, the core religious institution of Faerun, are temples and shrines, whether a small out-of-the-way building or a complex made up of multiple structures and tracts of land. Each temple operates according to the traditions of its faith. Although powerful or charismatic figures who rise to prominence within the temple hierarchy might motivate or inspire changes to those traditions. Temples in Faerun don't have regular services as such. Group observances in a temple only occur at specific festival times, and priests go out into the community to perform rites such as marriages and funerals. Temples are places where worshippers go to either spend personal or family time in a space consecrated to a deity, or seek the aid of the priest for some reason. Small shrines and private chapels are distinct from full-fledged temples, are common throughout Faerun, particularly in areas where a temple doesn't exist. Shrines tend to be unstaffed, kept up by the locals and visitors who use the place for prayer. A shrine might be as modest as a roadside well, where traveling merchants can drop a coin to request good fortune from Alkeen, or as grand as a statue from Aminator surrounded by braziers in a pavilion in the middle of a village. Traveling priests often seek out and visit these sites, and they act as meeting places for the faithful. When word gets around that a traveling priest of Eldath has come into town, the faithful seek her out as a holy spring dedicated to the goddess at the edge of town. A family or a business might maintain a shrine or a chapel to its favorite deity. Perhaps a set of wind chimes concentrated to a kadi hung from the high branches of a tree in the garden, or a wooden symbol shaped like the hand of a Zuth in a miniature displayed on a prominent wall with a space nearby to burn a candle or an incense. So here's another great big list. This is the Dwarven Pantheon. So, as previously described, some deities contain their own gods, and this is basically a comprehensive list of the gods that are worshipped by dwarves. Abathor, god of greed. Baranor, true silver, goddess of hearth and home. Clangeddon, Silverbeard, god of war. Deep Dwera, Dwergar, goddess of conquest and physics. Doug Martin, Brightmantle, god of discovery. Dumathoin, god of buried secrets. Dumathoin. Gorm Gothred, god of vigilance. Hela, Bright Axe, goddess of war and luck. Lodger, Dwergar, god of magic and slavery. Marmathor Duin, god of wanderers. Moradin, god of creation. Sharandlar, goddess of healing. And Vergidin, god of luck and wealth. The Elven Pantheon. Erdifenia, goddess of the sky. Angadar, triple goddess of wisdom and protection. Corlin Letharian, god of art and magic. Deep Sashellus, god of the sea. Evron Illiser, god of mischief. Fenrel Mesterine, god of outcasts. Hanali Selenil, goddess of love and beauty. Labelus Enereth, god of time, history, and philosophy. Relithane Relathiel, god of nature. Sehanin Moonbow, goddess of divination, dreams, travel, and death. Severash, god of vengeance. And Solanor Thalandria, god of archery. So that is just about as much Elvish as I have ever read on the channel so far. The Drow Pantheon. Elistri, goddess of song and moonlight. Kira Nestle, goddess of necromancy. Lolth, goddess of spiders. Selvatarm, god of warriors. And Veirun, god of thieves. The Halfling Pantheon. Everine, god of vigilance and war. Brandoberus, god of thievery and adventure. Cerule, goddess of hearth and home. Sheila Peril, goddess of agriculture and weather. Urgolan, god of earth and death. And Yandala, goddess of fertility and protection. The Gnome Pantheon. Bavarian, wild wanderer, god of woodlands. Baravar, cloak shadow, god of illusion and deception. Kaladuran, smooth hands, god of mining and carving stone. Flandel, steelskin, god of metalwork. Gerdal, iron hand, god of protection. Garl Glittergold, god of trickery and gems. Nebaloon, god of invention and luck. Serojan Earthcaller, god of earth and the dead. And Erdlin, god of greed and murder. And the Orc Pantheon. Bagratu, god of strength. Grumish, god of storms and war. El Nivel, god of strategy and hordes. Luthic, mother goddess of fertility and healing. Shargas, god of stealth and darkness. And Yurturus, god of death and disease. Communing with the gods. Though many tales are told of times past when the gods appeared in physical form and walked the land, occasions of that sort are few and far between. For the most part, the gods communicate with their faithful through signs and omens, appreciated by those able to interpret them. Of course, some signs are more subtle, and thus more open to interpretation than others. The most common kind of communication that worshippers and priests find with their deities is in prayer, song, or meditation. Such experiences are intensely personal, and it is common wisdom to keep them that way. After all, advice from one's good that appears during morning prayer and gives one a good turn to the day is worthwhile only for oneself. Let each worshipper commune in their own way, as the saying goes. Good advice. Divine magic also provides a means of communing with the gods and can be used to call upon their guidance. Divine pronouncements of this sort are often personal in scope and belief, and those edicts that concern broader matters tend to be open to interpretation or debate. Okay. Priesthood, a vocation like any other, with those who undertake it often owning their abilities through a system of apprenticeship. At a small temple, a novice or an acolyte might study under the only priest available. Larger temples can accommodate groups of acolytes, each learning under the direction of one or more mentors responsible for training them in duties and skills of the priesthood. Once acolytes complete their education, they are ordained in a ritual in which a successful candidate is invested with the responsibilities of the priesthood. Conflicts and persecution. The moral and ethical values of the deity in Faerun run the gamut, representing all of the outlooks that their mortal followers demonstrate. From the principal agents of the good to the vicious proponents of evil, most cultures and society aren't nearly as cosmopolitan as the population of Faerun taken as a whole. As a result, the religious persecution from the viewpoint of those who garner the attention is practiced in places where worship of certain deities is frowned on. Most governments that engage in persecution limit such restrictions to the establishment of formal temples, priesthoods, and organized festivals. For instance, through worship of Talona, like that of many evil gods, it's forbidden in Waterdeep. This prohibition extends only to the creation of the temple and the presence of a priesthood within the city. Individual cities or families who revere Talona might be viewed as misguided, but they aren't taken into custody or punished as long as they obey the laws of the city. Some places take this form of persecution a step further for a variety of reasons. A tyrant may outlaw worship of Torm, lest it inspire rebellion, and an otherwise fair-minded mayor of a river-mill community might demand that worshippers of Sylvanas find elsewhere to live because of recent problems the timber cutters have had with local druids. Divine magic. This was the section that we were supposed to have read before. The gods show their favor towards mortals in a myriad of ways. A chosen few have their minds and souls open to the power of magic. There's no formula for who does and doesn't receive this divine insight, as the gods keep their own counsel concerning their selection. Some who are favored seek to ignore or deny their gifts, while others embrace it wholeheartedly. Some who display the potential for divine magic develop and practice their abilities in a temple, a sacred grove, or some other spiritual place, perhaps in the company of other students. Other practitioners of divine magic discover and nurture their gods, given power entirely on their own. The gods of Faerun. The gods who make up the pantheon of Faerun are much like the population of some of the realm's greatest cities, an eclectic band of individuals from a variety of sources. The makeup of the pantheon has shifted over the ages as a result of changes in the realm and its people, and the following pages describe the most prominent members of the pantheon. Ah, yes, the priests of the gods. We are delving really deep into the interpersonal and political relationships of the gods at this point. The deities of the Faerunian pantheon are by no means the only powers worshipped in the realms. The non-human races have pantheons of their own, and scattered other cults and local divinities can be found across Faerun. Amunader, the keeper of the eternal sun, the light of the law, and the yellow god. The rule of law and the glory of the sun are both in Amunader's domain. The priests help establish bureaucracies and lawful orders in communities. They often witness contracts and sign agreements, stamping each document with the sun symbol of Amunader to signify their validity. Asmodeus, the lord of the ninth, the cloven old hoof and horn. Often worship of Asmodeus began roughly a century ago when small cults from charismatic leaders sprang up in the aftermath of the spell plague. The catastrophe left many asking why the gods were angry or had abandoned them. To those questioners, the faithful of Asmodeus provided answers, and a god who would forgive all their faults. Still, for the next few decades, the cult of Asmodeus struggled for acceptance. Auril, the Frost Maiden, Lady Frostkissed, and Ice Dawn. Auril, the merciless goddess of cold and winter, is worshipped mostly in regions that are affected by deep winters. Folk propitiate Auril with offerings and prayers for mercy. Her priests warn others to prepare for winter and to stock extra provisions in order to have some to spare as offerings to the goddess. Azuth, the High Lord, the Lord of Spellclass, the First Magister. Few pay homage to Azuth aside from wizards. For them, the High One is the ultimate embodiment of all they hold dear. Misra serves as a goddess of magic, Agma is a god of knowledge, and Denir is a god of writing and language. Azuth takes aspects of these general fields and applies them to the specific practices of wizards. For instance, while Misra is a deity who resents the soul, art, and wonder of magic, Azuth is a god of wizards' long hours of study, exacting standards of movement and speech, and cramped ink-stained fingers. Wizards invoke Azuth when they scribe scrolls, inscribe magic circles, attempt to memorize spells, and even when they cast spells. From this acknowledgement comes the form of silently forming Azuth's holy symbol, pointing the index finger of the left hand to the sky. For many wizards, the gesture is so commonplace in their lives that it becomes an unconscious habit. Bane has a simple ethos: the Black Hand and the Lord of the Darkness. The strong have not just a right, but a duty to rule over the weak. A tyrant who is able to seize power must do so, for not only does the tyrant benefit, but so do those under the tyrant's rule. When a ruler succumbs to decadence, corruption, or decrepitude, the stronger and more suitable leader will rise. Beshaba, the Maid of Misfortune, Lady Doom, and Black Bess. Beshaba is the counterpoint to Timora and is just as frequently acknowledged in daily life as her more benevolent quote-unquote sister. She is seen as a cruel and capricious goddess who must be appropriated to avoid attracting her attention and interest in a negative way. Beshaba's name is invoked when somebody is beset by bad luck, which could be minor as stubbing a toe or breaking a wagon wheel, or as catastrophic as slipping or accidentally falling off a cliff. It is also invoked to ward off her attentions when someone is doing something in which good luck wouldn't play a part, but bad luck might. For example, someone rolling dice would invoke Timora because they want random chance to fall in their favor, but somebody about to cross a rickety bridge would ask Beshaba to keep the bridge intact. Baal, the Lord of Murder. The folk of Faerun don't normally pray or acknowledge Baal. He is seen as a deeply evil and destructive deity who hungers for death, meaning the death of many sentient beings through unlawful means. Some people pray to Baal when they want to commit murder. A person might have good reason to resort to murder, such as when one is unable to redress some injustice through lawful means, but it's far more common for prayers to Baal to be uttered by those who seek to kill someone out of jealousy, greed, or wrath. It is rare for anyone but assassins or compulsive killers to take Baal as a patron, and clerics who revere Baal are often qualifying on both counts. Shantae, the Great Mother and the Grain Goddess. Shantae is a goddess of agriculture, sowing and reaping, seeding and harvest, breeding and butchering, shearing and weaving. In this aspect, she is a rural deity, rarely prayed to behind the walls of a city, except by kitchen gardeners. But Shantae is also the Great Mother, a goddess of crib, hearth, and home. And as such, she is welcome into all homes at meal times and at the birth of children, and folk give thanks whether they experience the pleasure of settling by a fire and feeling safe and loved. The Earth Mother, the Druids of Moonshine Isles worship the Earth Mother, she who is the generative power of the land itself. For some mainlanders, the Earth Mother is an aspect or a manifestation of Shantae, but to the Druids, she is simply the Earth Mother and always will be. The moon wells of the Isles offer her sacred sites and her windows into the world. Sirik, the Prince of Lies in the Dark Sun. The worship of Sirik derives directly from the story of his ascension to godhood. Sirik was immortal during the time of troubles, and the key to how that chaotic period resolved. But he was also a selfish traitor and a murderer. When he became a god, Sirik continued to work various plots of deceit and murder, the most famous of which is that, according to legend, Sirik murdered Mystara and thus caused the spell plague over a century ago. Those who don't worship Sirik see him as a god of madness, strife, and deceit, although his priests consider such claims to be heresy. Their prince of lies isn't a twisted madman, but a god of dark majesty who proves that ultimately all bonds between folk corrupt and wither away. Danir. So as an aside, Danir is largely the god that I worship if I am playing in Dungeons & Dragons canon. I do have to slightly change the name whenever I'm actually working on one of my own materials, but the deity that is I effectively worship is based largely on Danir. Danir, the lord of all glyphs and images, the first scribe and the scribe of Ogma. Danir is the god of literature and literacy, the patron of the artist and the scribe. His is the power to accurately render and describe, to write and read, and to pass on information. In legend, Danir is often portrayed as being a scribe in service to Ogma, and he is sometimes thought of as Ogma's right hand. It is common practice for someone who writes a letter or records of information to say a prayer to Danir to avoid mistakes. Similarly, artists acknowledge Danir before beginning and upon completing paintings. Similarly, illuminations on manuscripts, tapestries that relate stories, and any such attempt to use the art to capture the truth. Alright. Eldath, the Quiet One, the guardian of groves, the mother of the waters. Eldath is the goddess of waterfalls, springs, pools, stillness, peace, and quiet. Knowledge goes blur. Yeah, particularly through me. So, something I had read off of the Forgotten Realm wiki has to do with the fact that Danir is fond of cats. However, Danir is frequently fond of calico cats. And so, I fall a little short of complete and total divinity when it comes to that. Eldath is the goddess of waterfalls, springs, pools, stillness, peace, and quiet glades. She is thought to be the present at many such places, particularly those that serve as druid groves. Eldath is the goddess of comfort, healing, and calm. Her blessed waters heal the sick, cure madness, and comfort the dying. Well, a cat is a cat, no. Well, I mean, that's certainly how I have a tendency to feel about it. Most rural places have a pond or a glade that locals ascribe to Eldath. Tradition dictates that it be a place of quiet reflection where others are left to their thoughts. A body of water, such as a pond or a spring, typically serves as a repository of offerings. If the holy site is a glade, a stream one crosses along the way might serve as a repository, or a prominent bush or tree in the glade might be the place where people tie offerings. Typical offerings are broken weapons or items that are remembrances of arguments which the faithful discard while making a wish for peace in the future. Many of those who favor Eldath are pacifists or people who are troubled by violence they have witnessed or experienced. Okay. Gond, the wonder bringer, the inspiration divine, and the holy maker of all things. Gond is the god of artifice, craft, and construction. He is revered by blacksmiths, woodworkers, engineers, and inventors, and I would presume artificers in the expanded 5e pantheon. Anyone who's crafting something might say a prayer to Gond to guide the work, but folk know that God smiles most brightly upon new inventions that others find useful. Priests of Gond wander the north, dressed in saffron vestments adorned with sashes that contain their folds, gears, locks, hooks, and bits of steel, tin, and wood that might prove useful in a pinch. They also wear belts of large linked metal medallions and enormous sun hats. A traveling priest of Gond offers services to distant villages as a tinkerer, a carpenter, and a civil engineer rolled into one, ready to help build a better paddock gate, dig a new well, or mend pots or furniture that might otherwise go to waste. All priests of Gond keep journals in which they record ideas, inventions, and innovations discovered in their travels, and take great delight in meeting fellow priests and sharing their finds. In large cities, the Gondar construct temples that serve as the great workshops and inventors' labs. In large cities, the Gondar construct temples that serve as great worshippers and inventors' labs. That sentence didn't make sense to me immediately. Wandering priests turn their journals over to recent scribes such as temples, who then record the priests' observations for prosperity and the benefit of all. Gwaeron Windstrom, the mouth of Malaki, the master tracker, the tracker never led astray. Few aside from rangers to the north pray to Gwaeron Windstrom, said to have been a mortal man, elevated to godhood by Malaki. Gwaeron serves rangers as their intercessor with Malaki. He is seen as a master ranger, the perfect tracker, a peerless animal handler, and a dedicated foe of rapacious creatures, such as trolls and orcs. He is said to look like an old man with a long white beard, who is still hale and mighty, and is believed to take rest and sleep in a stand of trees near Tribor. The Helm, the Watcher, he of unsleeping eyes and the Vigilant One, the god of vigilance and protection. Helm is seen as the epitome of the Guardian, the Watcher, and the Guard. He is venerated by those who need to remain watchful for enemies or danger. Helm is a favorite deity of people who make a living by protecting someone or something, such as bodyguards, members of the city watch, and the guards of the treasury vault. Helm embodies the spirit of watchfulness without regard to good or evil. In legends, he is honorable and keeps his word to a fault, such as when he guarded the celestial stairways during the time of troubles, preventing the gods from ascending them and continuing the chaos of that period until the tables of fate were found. Hor, the Doombringer, poet of justice. Hor, known in the lands as the Inner Sea as Asuran, is a god of revenge and retribution. He isn't typically worshipped habitually, but his name is invoked by those who seek vengeance. When a guilty party falls prey to fate, such as when a murderer escapes prosecution, but then is accidentally slain himself, the hand of Hor is given credit. When one hears the rolls of thunder in Ascension, when one hears 3 rolls of thunder in Ascension, it is thought to be a sign from Hor that some act of vengeance has been performed. Many human societies have the custom of ringing a bell or a gong 3 times when judgment of a crime is rendered or an execution takes place. Ilmater, the crying god, the rack-broken lord, and he who endures. Ilmater is the god of suffering, martyrdom, and perseverance, renowned for his compassion and endurance. It is he who offers succor and calming words to those who are in pain, victimized, or in great need. He is the willing sufferer, the one who takes the place of another to heft the other's burden, to take the other's pain. He is the god of the oppressed and the unjustly treated. It is said that if he had his way, the crying god would take all the suffering in the world into himself so as to spare others. Since he can't, he blesses those who endure on others' behalf and alleviates suffering when he can. Martyrs who die that others may live are always blessed by Ilmater with a final rest and reward in the god's afterlife, should they so choose. Jurgle, the final scribe, the pitiless one, and the bleak seneschal. Legend has it that Jurgle is an ancient deity. The story goes that in time of Netheril, he was worshipped as the god of death, murder, and strife. Yet with the passing of time, he became bored with his position. Then one day, 3 mortals, each a powerful adventurer, met Jurgle in the lands of the dead, determined to destroy him and take his power. Instead, Jurgle calmly abdicated his throne of bones and allowed each of the 3 mortals to take part of his divinity. Thus it was that Bane assumed the portfolio of strife, Merkel the rulership of the dead, and Baal the portfolio of murder. Jurgle lost his former stature and became a scribe of the dead. The Legend of Knucklebones, Skull Bowling, and the Empty Throne. So, this is a pretty lengthy entry, so I'm probably not going to read the whole thing. Well, actually, I don't think I can skip it. So, if I'm going to read a legend, I'm going to read a legend, beginning to end. That's a commitment. Okay. Long ago, there was but one god of strife, death and the dead, and he was known as Jurgle, the lord of everything. Jurgle tormented and fed on the discord among mortals and deific entities alike. When beings slew each other in their quest for power or in their hatred, he welcomed them into his shadowy kingdom of eternal gloom. As all things died, everything came to him eventually, and over time he built a kingdom unchallenged by any other god. But he grew tired of his duties, for he knew them too well, and without challenge there is nothing. And in nothingness there is only gloom. In such a state, the difference between absolute power and absolute powerlessness is undetectable. During this dark era, there arose 3 powerful mortals, Bane, Baal, and Merkel, who lusted after the power Jurgle possessed. The trio forged an unholy pact that they would gain such ultimate power, or die in the attempt. Over the length and breadth of the world they strode, singing powerful magic and spells, and defying death at every turn. No matter what monster they confronted or what spells they braved, the three mortals emerged unscathed at every turn. Eventually the trio journeyed into the Grey Waste and sought out the Castle of Bone. Throughout armies of skeletons, legions of zombies, hordes of wraiths, and a gauntlet of liches, they battled. Eventually they reached the object of their lifelong quests, the Bone Throne. "I claim this throne to be evil," Bane the tyrant shouted to Jurgle. "I'll destroy you before you can raise a finger," threatened Ball the assassin. "And I shall imprison your essence for eternity," promised Merkel the necromancer. Jurgle arose from his throne with a weary expression and said, "The throne is yours. I've grown weary of this empty power. Take it if you wish. I promise to serve and guide you as your seneschal until you grow comfortable with the position." Then, before the stunned could react, the Lord of the Dead asked, "Who among you shall rule?" The trio immediately fell into fighting among themselves while Jurgle looked on with indifference. When it eventually appeared that either they would all die of exhaustion or battle for an eternity, the Lord of the End of Everything intervened. "After all you have sacrificed, would you come away with nothing? Why don't you divide the portfolios of the office by engaging in a game of skill for them?" asked Jurgle. Bane, Ball, and Merkel considered the god's offer and agreed to it, so Jurgle took the skulls of his three most powerful liches and gave them to his trio, so that they would compete in skull bowling. Each mortal rolled a skull across the Grey Waste, having agreed that the winner would be he who bowled the farthest. Malor, the Beast Lord, arrived to visit Jurgle at this moment. After quickly ascertaining that the winner of the contest would receive all of Jurgle's power, he chased off after the three skulls to make sure the contest would be halted until he had a chance to participate to be part of the prize. Bane, Ball, and Merkel again fell into fighting, as it was obvious their sport had been ruined, but again Jurgle intervened. "Why don't you allow Lady Luck to decide so you don't have to share with the beast?" The trio agreed to this alternative, and Jurgle broke off his skeletal finger bones and gave them to the contestants. When Malar returned from chasing the skull, he found that the trio had just finished a game of knucklebones. Bane cried out triumphantly, "As a winner, I choose to rule for eternity as the ultimate tyrant. I can induce hatred and strife at my whim, and all will bow down for me while in my kingdom." Merkel, who had won second place, declared, "But I choose the dead, and in doing so I truly win, because all that you are lord over, Bane, will eventually be mine. All things must die, even the gods." Ball, who finished third, proclaimed, "I choose death, and it is by my hand that you shall rule Lord Bane. Will eventually pass to Lord Merkel. Both of you must pay honor to me and obey my wishes, since I can destroy your kingdom by murdering your subjects, and can starve your kingdom, Merkel, by staying my hand." Malar grew in frustration but could do nothing, and yet so again only the beasts were left for him. And Jurgle merely smiled, for he had been delivered. Powerful myth. Okay. I'm hoping to get to the end of this list by the end of this stream, because then I believe after this is finished, we're going to get to go on to Chapter 2. Skull bowling? Yeah, skull bowling. And also finger bones, which is effectively like drawing skulls, except for with bone fingers. Okay, so Kalimvor, the Lord of the Dead, the Judge of the Damned. The Kalimvor is seen as just, fair, and comforting God of death. Death comes to all, and when it occurs, Kalimvor is here to take each soul by hand and lead it into the proper afterlife. Kalimvor's priests teach that those who revere the gods, according to the rites of their religion, have done their proper service, and will be offered the afterlife that they seek. Lathander, the Morning Lord, Inspiration's Dawn, the Rose and Gold God. Lathander is a god of spring, birth, and renewal, a deity of conception, vitality, youth, renewal, and self-perception. He is god not of the sun, but of the dawn, which represents the start of a new day filled with potential. I like Kalimvor. Yeah, I mean, fair is fair. And, we all expect to be treated fairly. Particularly those of us who actually do worship a deity and know exactly what we expect for the incoming afterlife. Lathander is a god of beginnings. People commonly offer a prayer to him before undertaking any journey or endeavor. Lathander's name is invoked to seal alliances and christen new ventures or companies. As a result, the god is very popular among the merchant classes, and the church has benefited accordingly. Lyra, the Lady of the Mist, the Mist Shadow, and the Lady of Deception. Lyra has worn many masks and more than once has been thought to be dead or another deity altogether. Perhaps such a representation is only natural for the goddess of illusion and deception. Her faithful agree that whatever the truth might be, their lady takes great delight in the confusion sown by her various incarnations. Even the faithful Sirik once taught that their god killed Lyra, but now they espouse the strange idea that somehow she is his daughter. Okay, Lyra, this is a little different than Lyra. Lyra, Our Lady of Joy, Joy-bringer, and the Mistress of Revels. Lyra is a beloved goddess, a deity of contentment, release, joy, happiness, dance, and freedom. As the patron of festivals, she is honored by any celebration, and dance is the primary way to worship her. The Mistress of Revels is said to abhor violence and any fighting or drawing of weapons, except in ceremony. And the celebration will cause her to withhold her favor. Her priests and priestesses, known as Joybringers, take it as their mission to make other people happy, if even just for a moment. Leviatar, the Maiden of Pain, the Scourge Mistress, the Willing Whip. Pain isn't a means to an end till I'm having a hard time for this. Leviatar is faithful, but an end into itself. To them, nothing is as transcendent as suffering, and all pain is holy, from the crudest barbarism to the most sublime torture, to the emotional suffering of the heartbroken or betrayed. The pain that one feels is proof of Lady's attention, and so her faithful are notorious self-flagellants. Pain is also a path to power, in terms of both one's ability to inflict and one's ability to endure. A cold, cruel demeanor is considered ideal because it best emulates the Scourge Mistress, and for the same reason, her faithful appreciate beauty, cultural refinement, and a certain adeptness at manipulation. Malar, the Beast Lord, the Black-Blooded One. Malar epitomizes the dark side of nature, the world that is red in tooth and claw. His faithful believe that the hunt is the center point between life and death, the facing off for hunter and prey, forcing the issue of who lives and who dies. People believe that Malar can't be propitiated and knows no mercy, so he receives prayers only from those engaging in the hunt. Such supplicants pray to Malar for two reasons: to beg the aid of his spiritless skill as a hunter, or to adopt his fearsome mantle and thus ward off other predators. Malar is the god of those who delight in the hunt, don't shy from bloodshed, and savor the fear of their prey. Mask, the Lord of Shadows, the master of all thieves. Mask is a trickster god, the patron of ne'er-do-wells, spies, and thieves. All that occurs within shadow is the purview of the mask. People whisper a prayer to the mask, whether stealth is required or intrigue is afoot. Courtiers and diplomats invoke the god's name in hopes of a smooth negotiation. Okay. Malachi, Our Lady of the Forest and the Forest Queen. People rarely speak of Malachi except in quiet forest spaces. Woodlands that evoke wonder are where she reigns supreme, but she is said to keep watch over good folk in any forest, no matter how dark or cruel. When children are lost in the woods, people beseech Malachi to protect them until they are found. Malachi is the goddess of the forest and the creatures that live within it. She is seen as a remote and spiritual deity, less human-like than many other gods. She is not unmindful of people, but her attention and favor are difficult to attract. She is the patron of rangers, in the same way that Millie is patron of bards. But even rangers rarely pray to her directly. They instead pray to Gwerum Windstrom, who they believe will carry her words to the goddess by tracking her to whatever forest that she hides in. Milil, the Lord of Song, the one true hand of all-wise Agma. Mela is the god of poetry, eloquence, and song. He is a god of creativity and inspiration, or the entire song more than just the lyrics or the music. He represents the finished thought, the result of the process that takes an idea from conception to realization. Millie is most venerated by bards, troubadours, and other entertainers, but anyone preparing or entertain or speak before a crowd might offer Millie a brief prayer for a successful performance. Those who seek inspiration and creative effort also pray to Millie. Merkel, the Lord of Bones, the Old Skull, and the Reaper, one of the three, as we've already described. Merkel is an ancient god, one of 3 former mortals who were raised to deityhood when Jergal grew weary of his divine duties and distributed his influence between them. Merkel became the god of death and dead and ruled over the city of the dead for centuries until he, in turn, was slain. In time, Merkel returned for can death itself ever truly die? Merkel's faithful see him as the Reaper who lays claim to souls and brings them to Kelvamore to be judged. Okay. Mistra, Our Lady of Mysteries, Our Lady of Spells, and the Mother of all magic. Mistra is the goddess of magic, and with that the goddess of all possibilities. She is venerated by the mages and those who use magic or magical objects in their daily lives. She also receives the prayers of those who find magic wondrous or encounter magic that they fear. Mistra is the goddess of the essential force that makes all spellcasting possible. She provides and tends the weave, the conduit through which mortal spellcasters and magical crafters can safely access the raw force of magic. Agma, the binder, the lord of knowledge. Agma, the god of inspiration, intervention, and knowledge. Above all else, Agma represents knowledge in its most supreme raw form, the idea. An aphorism cited by his faithful about his concept serves him as a prayer when it is repeated aloud. An idea has no heft, but can move mountains. An idea has no authority, but it can dominate people. An idea has no strength, but can push aside empires. Knowledge is the greatest tool of the mortal mind, outweighing anything made by mortal hands. Before anything else can exist, the idea must exist. The Red Knight, the Lady of Strategy, the Crimson General, and the Grandmaster of the Lance Board. The Red Knight is the goddess of planning and strategy. Those who favor her call themselves the Red Fellowship. They believe wars are won by the best planning, strategy, and tactics. The worship of the Red Knight is filled with doctrine about strategy, such as, every war is a series of battle. Losing one doesn't mean losing the war. In war, plan for peace. In peace, plan for war. And seek allies amongst your enemies' enemies. Savras, the all-seeing third eye and divination's lord. Savras is a god of divination and fortune-telling. Few people worship him, but many pray to him while performing small rituals of foresight. For example, young men and women sometimes attempt to divine the names of their future spouses by saying a rhyming chant that calls upon Savras while gazing in a mirror. Saloon, Our Lady of Silver, the Moon Maiden, and the Night White Lady. Saloon is thought to be amongst the most ancient of Faerun's deities. Most humans and Faeruns consider the moon in the sky to also be literally the goddess gazing down the world, and the trailing motes of light behind her tears. She is also a goddess of stars and navigation, as well as motherhood and reproductive cycles. She is seen as a calm power, frequently venerated by female humans as well as a mix of other folk, navigators and sailors, those who work honestly at night, and those seeking protection in the dark, the lost, and the questing. Shar, the mistress of the night, the Dark Lady, or Our Lady of Loss. The Dark Queen of Saloon, Shar is the goddess of darkness, both in its physical form and it exists in minds and souls of mortals. People worship Shar as the goddess of light, secrets, loss, and forgetfulness. She represents pains hidden but not forgotten, and vengeances carefully nurtured from light. She is said to have power to make folk forget their pain or become more inured to a loss, and many people in distress pay to Shar for such a blessing. Sylvanus, the Oak Father, the Old Oak, and the Old Father Tree. Sylvanus represents the entirety of nature, deserts as well as forests, sharks as much as deer, but folk in the north who contend with the dangers of forests, mountains, and plains see Sylvanus as more of a god of those places. Sylvanus is thought of as a grim and severe father figure who metes out flood and drought, fire and ice, and life and death in the wilderness. In legends, he often commands other nature deities, dealing out rewards and punishments to them as they are fitting. Soon, Lady Firehair, the Lady of Love, the Princess of Passion. Soon, Firehair is a deity of passion and delights of the senses. She is the goddess of beauty in all its forms, not just pleasing sights, but also enchanting sounds, luxurious tastes and scents, and the exquisite pleasures of the flesh, from a lover's caress to the brush of silk on her skin. Her worshippers seek out the pleasures in life, not out of mere decadence, but because the experience of pleasure is the touch of Soon herself. Talona, the Lady of Poison, mistress of the disease and the plague crone. one of the most beseeched of Faerun's deities. Talona is the goddess of disease and poison, blamed for everything from common illnesses to crop failure to brackish wells to plague. Depicted in temple iconography as a withered crone with a cup or a vase that holds all varieties of disease and poison. Talona is a fearsome goddess, and many are the prayers that beg her for protection from illness and poison. Various rituals to placate her involve the use of drops of blood or 3 tears to be dropped into a well that has gone bad, dripped into the handkerchief of someone beset by coughing, dropped into a fire made by burning a withered crop, dipped into the mouth of a plague sufferer, and so on. It's common practice to mark a container of poison with her holy symbol, 3 droplets in a triangle, and during epidemics, folk paint the same image on the homes of the infected. Talos, Stormlord the Destroyer. Talos is the dark side of nature, the uncaring and destructive force that might strike at any time. He is the god of storms, forest fires, earthquakes, tornadoes, and general destruction. He counts the Ravager, the Raider, the Looter, and the Brigand among his followers. Those who favor him see life as a succession of random events in a sea of chaos. So the devout should grab what they can when they can, for who can say when Talos will strike and send them into the afterlife. Tempest, the foe hammer, the lord of battles. Tempest is a war god concerned with brave conduct during the war, using force of arms over talk for settling disputes and encouraging bloodshed. The god of war is random in his favors, meaning that his chaotic nature favors all sides equally. Lord Tempest might be an army's ally one day, and its enemy the next. We might seem to manifest before battle, appearing to one side or the other. He is seen riding a white mare, Veros, and then the army will exceed. If he has seen... sorry about that. If he is seen riding a white mare, Veros, then the army will succeed. But if he is riding a black stallion, Deros, then defeat is certain. Most often he appears to be riding with 1 foot in each mount's stirrup, signifying the unpredictable nature of battle. In such visions, Tempest is always a powerful ally, built warrior dressed for battle in the style of those who envision him. Okay. Torm, the loyal fury, the hand of righteousness. Torm is the god of duty and loyalty, revered by those who face danger to bring about a greater good. Those who favor Torm believe that one's salvation can be found through service, that every failure to perform one duty diminishes Torm, and that every success adds to his luster. Those who take Torm to heart must strive to fulfill his commandment, to go out in the world and be an active force for good, to right wrongs and help the hopeless. They must strive to maintain peace and order while opposing unjust laws. Followers of Torm stand ever alert against corruption and are expected to strike quickly and hard against any evidence to rot in the hearts of mortals. As a sword arm of justice, Torm's faithful are expected to bring quick deaths to betrayers. Considering these tenets, it should be no surprise that human paladins have Torm as their patron. Tymora, Lady Luck, or Smiling Lady. Tymora is the bright-faced goddess of fortune, the one to whom gamblers and game players pray in Faerun. Our Smiling Lady is said to love none so much as those who gamble with the utmost skill and daring, yet she is thought to watch over all who take risks in order to better their fortunes. The battle cry of the followers of Tymora is "Fortune favors the bold." Some might say words to Tymora before any endeavor with a little good luck would help, but not in an incident where bad luck might occur. On such occasions, folk pray to Beshaba to spare them from bad luck. Praying to both is thought to anger both goddesses. One common method for defining the future is to toss a coin to a stranger, typically a beggar, and ask if it is heads. If it is, the coin is left with the stranger as payment for Tymora's favor. If not, the stranger can choose to keep it and the bad luck, or return it. Okay, so there is a legend of Tai Chi and her twin daughters. I might save that one for a future read-through. I do like the legends in story form. You know, it just makes things a little bit more entertaining to know what the gods were based on the deeds that they accomplished. Tempest, my dude, my bro, my ace in the hole. Tyr Grimjaws, the maimed god, the even-handed. Tyr Grimjaws, Tyr the even-handed, wounded Tyr, the maimed god, the blind Tyr, the lord of justice. All these names speak to the nature of the Faerunian god of justice. Tyr appears as a noble warrior, missing his right hand, which he lost to Kazef, the Chaos Hound, in an act of bravery and sacrifice. and with his eyes wrapped in cloth to signify his blindness, caused by a wound dealt to him by Ao when he questioned the justice of the Overgod's actions. Tyr's followers devote themselves to the cause of justice, to the righting of wrongs, and the deliverance of vengeance. This devotion isn't necessarily concerned with equality or fairness, but rather the discovery of truth and the punishment of the guilty. Those who favor Tyr tend to be stiff-necked about matters of theology and laws, seeing things in terms of black and white. Tyr's credo of lawfulness and honesty is a demanding one, and his priests remind the faithful not to hold in contempt others who can't live by it. It wouldn't be an honorable calling if anybody could muster the strength of will in order to follow it. Yeah, the little stories are a great touch. Umberlee, the bitch queen, the queen of the depths, and the wave mother. No community that lives by the sea can ignore the influence of Umberlee, the furious goddess whose tempestuous nature reflects and is reflected by the waters of the deep. Any such community makes sure to host festivals to propitiate the wave mother and seek her favor. Although merciful in temperament, she can be generous to those who do her honor, as is any great queen. The bitch queen is worshipped out of fear instead of adoration, and ship crews offer her gems tossed over the side to calm storm-tossed waters. As her most common moniker suggests, she is viewed as capricious and cruel, with no firm ethical outlook. The sea is a savage place, and those who travel it best be willing to pay the price of challenging her domain. Okay, Joaquin, Our Lady of the Gold, the Coin Maiden, and the Merchant's Fiend. Joaquin is the goddess of wealth and trade on both sides of the law. Her most ardent worshippers include shopkeepers, members of trading coasters, wealthy merchants, caravan guides, itinerant peddlers, money changers, and smugglers. She is interested in anything that increases trade and the flow of money, whether new trade routes, new inventions, or the whim of changing fashion. Those who take Joaquin as a patron can be reliably thought of as greedy, but the Coin Maiden is said to frown upon misers and smile upon the industrious and the profligate, and thus priests who bear her holy symbol find themselves welcome in many towns and cities. And so then there's one more legend about the gods of Mulherend. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read those two legends the next time I do a tabletop lore, and then we're going to move on to the second chapter. So, anyways, thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. We had a lot of activity tonight. We are, just 6 minutes over time. But, yeah, we did make good overall use of our time, and I was able to describe everything that I was hoping to cover tonight. So, thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in. Cheers, informative stream, very informative stream. Once again, our stream is sponsored by GreatMedia.Games. Please visit GreatMedia.Games and use the code TENFINITY at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Gotta look into that One Piece game. Yeah, you should absolutely look into that. You know, I do think that is going to become pretty big here in the United States, just in the same way that it currently is in Japan. And also, please consider leaving a donation to our Christmas campaign supporting Extra Life. We are going to be collecting donations until December 31st. And may the Coin Maiden be in favor of your charity. Sorry, I just had to throw that in. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's do a raid. Let's see, who would we like to pay a visit to tonight? Let's see. The first one. That one might be interesting. Kaslam. Actually, you know, Mermaid is on. I think they're usually on Sundays. Both her and Half GMG, and they are playing a co-op game of Stardew Valley. So let's go ahead and let's pay them a visit. Okay. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. I believe that I am going to be on tomorrow evening. And if I'm going to be on tomorrow evening, I do believe I'm going to play part 3 of Persona 5 Royal. So, be sure to look out for that. So, we're going to be starting a new week beginning tomorrow. And, of course, I'm going to be, on Tuesday, I'm going to be playing my usual game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel along with Hoff and other members of Great Media Games and Rocky Mountain Pro. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you very much for watching. Love in the Persona. Love in the Persona. I love the Persona too. That's why I'm still playing it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And have a good evening.